Jimmy Kimmel is back. But corporate media won't save free speech. A week after ABC pulled Jimmy Kimmel's late-night show off the air for saying the MAGA gang was desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them, and trying to score political points from it, the network brought the show back. A win, sure, but also a cautionary tale. Kimmel's suspension wasn't a response to an audience backlash to the comments. Advertisers weren't threatening to bolt. And I highly doubt ABC was caught off guard. I know firsthand how network lawyers comb through every word of a script several times before it airs. If they objected, it never would have made it to your TV. This happened because President Donald Trump is attempting to silence his critics, especially influential critics with big platforms, even if wielding his power to do so violates the Constitution, according to legal scholars. Kimmel's reinstatement doesn't change the fact that the government interference was real, and the network caved, albeit temporarily, when it was threatened. The crackdown is part of a broader scheme. Over the past several decades, corporate media companies have gobbled up smaller media companies so they can control the information landscape and thus all the profits. The Federal Communications Commission, FCC, has to approve many of those mergers, and Trump stacked the FCC with his supporters. Cue Trump's FCC chair, Brendan Carr, who publicly threatened Disney with consequences if it didn't take action against Kimmel. "We can do this the easy way or the hard way," said Carr of Disney. These companies can find ways to take action on Kimmel, or there is going to be additional work for the FCC ahead. That is not cancel culture. It's state censorship. As the story unfolded, comic after comic offered support for Jimmy. But there was an eerie silence from the self-proclaimed free speech warriors like Dave Chappelle and Andrew Schultz. It took Joe Rogan nearly a week to address it. These guys will talk for hours about how woke mobs are destroying comedy by policing speech, but when the actual president of the United States and the FCC strong-arm a network over a late-night monologue, suddenly it's crickets. Free speech, it seems, only matters when you're punching down. I've known Jimmy a long time. I was a producer on the pilot of The Man Show in 1999. Yes, me, the loud-ass feminist. I've never been shocked when I didn't get booked at a club or was canceled from gigs because of what I dared mention on stage. Abortion, homophobia, sexism, racism, fascism, really any of the isms or the phobias. As frustrating and sometimes maddening as it is, I know the difference between clubs not booking me or audiences deciding they don't like my material and the government blocking my right to tell those jokes. Jimmy's quick return is not proof of corporate backbone. Massive station group Sinclair and Nexstar are still refusing to air the show. What it does reiterate is the vulnerability of our freedoms. Disney blinked once and could just as easily blink again. A parent company like Disney's investment in free speech has one driving economic principle. Does it make us money? When I perform as a comedian, I speak full-throated about abortion. Audiences can boo, boycott, or bail. That's the free market of ideas. I cultivate my own audience, and I book theaters that align with my values. If, after all that, I still can't fill a room or get heckled, I live with the results. But here's the crucial line. When the government threatens media outlets with regulatory punishment unless they silence dissent, that's not the marketplace. That's authoritarianism. And Carr's hypocrisy makes it even more galling. In 2018, during an FCC oversight hearing, Carr told Senator Maggie Hassan, "The whole purpose of the First Amendment is to encourage strong, robust, perhaps rough, discourse. My job is to act consistent with the First Amendment in every single thing I do." Fast forward to today, and he's using his position to muzzle a comedian. So which is it, Brendan? Late-night stars are getting the attention and the headlines, but it doesn't stop there. Vice President J.D. Vance has literally urged Americans to report neighbors and colleagues who criticize Kirk, even if those criticisms were just Kirk's own words repeated back. "Call them out, and hell, call their employer," said Vance, conflating criticizing Kirk with celebrating his death. That's making McCarthyism great again. You wouldn't know it by the way this administration behaves, but the courts have been clear on the First Amendment for decades. In Rankin v. McPherson, 1987, the U.S. Supreme Court said a government employee who joked she hoped Reagan's would-be assassin succeeded couldn't be fired. In Hustler v. Falwell, 1988, the court unanimously ruled that parody of public figures, no matter how outrageous, is protected. Free speech covers the jokes, the satire, the parodies, even the dumb, crass, or offensive ones. Our constitutional protections exist for this exact moment, for when the government tries to muzzle the people who challenge it. No one has a right to a Netflix special or a network desk. If you can't build a reliable fan base and they cancel you, that's not censorship. But being suspended because the president's regulator leaned on your bosses? That's the very definition. Authoritarians historically come for the comics first, and most recently under Putin, satirist Idrak Mirzalizade was jailed and deported for mocking Russian housing. And in Egypt, Bassem Youssef, dubbed the Jon Stewart of the Arab world, was forced off the air and into exile after satirizing leadership. Authoritarians are attacking these folks first because laughter is power. The reason you see so many comedians banding together right now is that we understand that none of us are safe, even those who have an act that isn't political. When Stephen Colbert was targeted earlier this year, I warned this wasn't a one-off. Now they've come for Jimmy. There is no predicting what joke might set off this particular malignant narcissist in chief. So really, who's to say who is next? The answer is all of us. Any of us. Even with Jimmy back, the lesson is clear. Corporate media will never be our defenders of free speech. That burden falls on us. Comics, audiences, citizens. This is not the time to keep your head down and wait it out. It's time to speak up for your freedom of speech. If you've got truth to tell, find a way to tell it. People look to comedians as truth tellers, and it's our responsibility to show people how to defend not just your voice but their own. But it only works if we refuse to be silent. The good news? Laughter is what gets us through dark times, and audiences won't let the government steal it. If the First Amendment is going to survive, it'll be because we built and defended our own stages, our own platforms, and our own audiences. It'll be because the American people won't let our freedoms be taken away. The band plays, the cameras cut to a familiar stage, and there he is, Jimmy Kimmel, back behind the desk that has, for years, been his pulpit of satire and cultural commentary. For fans of late-night television, his return feels like a reunion with an old friend. The monologues return, the celebrities shuffle in, the comedy sketches find new life on YouTube the following morning. But beneath the laughter, applause, and carefully orchestrated television spectacle lies a truth that no late-night comeback can hide. Corporate media does not exist to defend free speech. Kimmel's return to Jimmy Kimmel Live, after a break, or any break in the television ecosystem, is a perfect case study of the paradox at the heart of modern American entertainment. On the one hand, his presence reminds us that satire still has a place in mainstream discourse. On the other hand, the very structure that enables his show to exist, the massive machinery of Disney-owned ABC, the advertisers, the affiliate broadcasters, also ensures that free speech, in its rawest and most democratic form, will never be the real product. The product is entertainment. The product is profitability. The product is attention, packaged, monetized, and resold. The illusion of return. When Kimmel walks back onto stage, it is framed as a victory, as if one individual's reappearance signals the endurance of free expression. Corporate press releases hail the return of A Voice America Needs. Headlines glow with words like triumph and resurgence. And fans celebrate the return of their nightly ritual. But let's be honest. Free speech was not waiting for Jimmy Kimmel. Free speech does not depend on the presence of a single host. It has always lived in the streets, in the voices of protesters, in the arguments at kitchen tables, and in the buzzing corners of independent media. Corporate media, however, thrives on symbols. Kimmel's return is packaged as a cultural reassurance. See, the networks say, we are still the place where jokes can be told, where politics can be mocked, where truth can sneak in under the cover of comedy. But the illusion is thin. What happens when the joke cuts too deep? What happens when advertisers threaten to pull out? What happens when a corporate parent fears backlash from powerful allies? In those moments, satire is not shielded, it is sanded down. The sharp edges are dulled until what remains is safe enough to sell detergent in the commercial break. Comedy as controlled dissent. To be fair, Kimmel has never shied away from controversy. His monologues on healthcare, gun violence, and political hypocrisy have gone viral precisely because he occasionally pushes beyond the expected. He knows how to blend sincerity with comedy, outrage with laughter. Yet even he operates within carefully drawn boundaries. Comedy on a corporate stage is a paradox. It critiques the very system that sustains it. Late-night hosts are encouraged to be bold, but not too bold. They can question power, but only within a bandwidth that keeps shareholders comfortable. They can make fun of politicians, but rarely the advertisers who pay the bills. They can perform resistance, in a way that flatters audiences who crave catharsis, but not in a way that threatens the structural order of media itself. This is what makes corporate-backed comedy so insidious. It creates the impression of rebellion without the danger of revolution. Audiences get to laugh, to feel as though they are part of a brave conversation, while the real limits of speech remain untouched. Free speech is simulated, not practiced. The marketplace of speech. True free speech is messy. It is uncomfortable, unmonetizable, often unpopular. It flourishes in podcasts, newsletters, street protests, independent blogs, live streams, and town hall meetings. It is where dissenters shout against consensus, where unpopular opinions find daylight, and where voices without sponsors still fight to be heard. Corporate media, by contrast, thrives in curation. The late-night show is not a free-flowing conversation. It is a tightly edited performance. Every line is vetted, every sketch rehearsed, every moment calibrated for maximum effect. It is speech, yes, but it is not free. It is a commodity. Kimmel, like his peers, knows this. He operates as both an artist and an employee, navigating the space between expression and corporate survival. That balancing act explains why late-night comedy sometimes feels like fast food for political engagement. Satisfying in the moment, but ultimately empty of the nutrients needed for sustained civic life. Why the crowd cheers? So why do we still cheer when Kimmel returns? Because in a world of shrinking cultural spaces, late-night TV offers something familiar. It is ritualistic, a nightly campfire around which millions gather. People crave the consistency, the laughter, the release. For viewers, Kimmel represents continuity in a fractured age. But cheering his return as a triumph of free speech misunderstands what free speech requires. Free speech requires not a hero but a public. It requires not a corporation but a community. It requires protection not from the applause of fans but from the suppression of dissent. The gatekeepers of culture. Corporate media will never be the defender of free speech because it is, by design, a gatekeeper. Its goal is to protect the brand, not the principle. When the two align, when satire is profitable and politically acceptable, it thrives. When they diverge, satire is pruned back until it becomes palatable again. That is why the true defenders of free speech today are not on late-night television but on platforms where voices can emerge without corporate approval. Independent journalists, podcasters, comedians who risk deplatforming rather than self-censorship. These are the messy heirs of a democratic tradition. They do not always succeed, and they are often wrong. But their speech is free in a way that cannot be replicated under the lights of a Disney-owned stage. A different kind of applause.